to join us right now. And this is my friend from the DMV. I'm going to jump right into the conversation and introduce to everybody the great Mark Gray from the DMV. Yeah.
Good to be with you. You might want to check that standard for greatness, my friend, but it's great to be with you as always. How you doing, Jenny?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, good to meet you. What's the deal, fam?
What up? From MLBbrodotcom.
Yeah, that's as good a place to start because I was thinking about it when I was riding over here to my office and wanted to get your thoughts on watching Jazz Chisholm play for the Yankees. I think you and I probably had an offline conversation about it.
Yeah,
he went to New York. He was the perfect person to fit at that time, and he's on center stage. He's been waiting for this moment. I think he's built for this. You've seen him a lot more up close than I have over his career, bro. But what I see right now is something different that was in Miami.
Yeah, the guy is built for the big time. He's brash. He's young. They were hating on him down here in Miami for it. Like he was flashy. He reminded me of Ricky Henderson. You know what I mean? You go out there and Deion Sanders. You got that it factor. Not only do you show it on the field, but the fans flock to you. And I thought he was a perfect guy to join the Yankee organization. As a matter of fact, talk about going from the pitfalls of hell to the top to the top of the world when you're about to make it to the World Series. Like how much luck, how great can things turn out?
Well, I mean, like we all knew in the beginning, he was built for the moment. There are layers to problems in Miami as far as the Marlins are concerned. I mean, the inconsistency is the front office is something that continues to hurt the on-field play. And, it should be a great town, should be a baseball city. My beloved Orioles, when I was growing up, used to have spring training there. So Miami's a good baseball town, but they're poorly run from top to bottom, and I just don't get it. But that being said, looking at what Jazz is doing right now, it's got to sicken a lot of baseball fans down there. But I'm glad to see the guys getting his chance on this kind of stage and taking advantage of it. I know he's freezing out there when it's 45 degrees and he's used to playing in 75, 80. But he looks good doing it. And it's hard to pull for the Yankees. But I did say Yankees-Dodgers in the World Series at the beginning of the season, and I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Really?
Yeah.
You called it at the beginning of the year.
I did. You can go back and check the MLBbrodotcom predictions. And I was on this because, to me, the biggest acquisition last year was Juan Soto. Okay? Yeah. I've seen Soto in this moment in my town. And they won it. And he was a vital factor down that stretch. So he takes pressure off of Aaron Judge. He and then when you add like the athleticism that Jazz brings there, dude came up as a shortstop. He's playing third for the Yankees to get a ring. I mean, just think about it. And nobody in the playoffs, I think, has the table setter like he does to make things happen on the base pass. So all things considered, great move by the Yankees. And that was the move that set to me that the Yankees were ready because I knew what they had with Garrett Cole.
Yeah, Garrett Cole was not great last night, but he was good enough.
That's all you need.
Got the job done, and that is all you need. Now, some people feel like the Yankees had an easy way to the World Series, and we're talking about it as if they're there already, but they still got to win 2 more games. But you can only play, right, Jenny? You can only play who's in front of you.
Right.
Exactly. New York is that town. You can't just come in there. If you don't have your mindset right, those fans are going to eat you alive. They expect greatness. They expect it. They demand it. So if you're not confident in your game, they're going to eat you alive.
No doubt about it.
And you had another Marlin that had to learn that hard way, Giancarlo Stanton. You remember he struggled that first month of the season. I'm pretty sure it took some days off his life the way that they get after you up there in New York. But that being said, he's come around now. A better postseason hitter, ironically, than Aaron Judge.
Yeah,
statistics bear that out. So some guys are built for that moment. We know we're watching Jazz grow into his, and Stanton seems to have figured it out.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Stanton has the game. I don't necessarily know that he has like the kind of the personality that New York wants out of their players. They want that boisterous person, that flamboyant person that, his game speaks for him, luckily, because he's always quiet in the locker room or, the what do they call the dugout? Yeah. he's quiet. We try to interview him before, and you get one or two words. Hopefully you can string together a sentence and try to put together what you need for your broadcast or whatever. But yeah, he's luckily, like I said, his game speaks for him.
And you know something, that's what they like in New York. The people in the press want folks to have personalities so that they can get in their business. But Stanton just is a baseball player. That's his job. And and when he's doing his job, he's doing it well. I mean, you look at the middle of the lineup, and I saw it when the Soto deal went down. I was like, you're going to have Judge, Stanton, and Soto in the middle of that lineup. We're not going to add Anthony Volpe and all those guys. But Yankees are formidable. But as an MLB bro, to my core, I'm pulling for Dave Roberts, man. Always roll with the black manager. I'm sorry, man. That's my heart.
Yes, sir.
What I'm about. I'm pulling for Dave Roberts. I think Shohei has to hit. We got to get a little bit more offensively out of Mookie Betts. And the question for me is their pitching. I mean, how many games can you win when you trotting out 5 bullpen arms as basically starters? We've seen it go left once, and it worked tremendous the other time. I don't know if I'm trying to risk that in the World Series, but I guess you got to get there first.
No doubt, you need a big horse, man. You need a big horse somewhere. And we're talking, of course, about the LA Dodgers right now with my man Mark Gray, MLBbrodotcom. Shout out to Rob Parker. You know what it is.
Yeah, you know what the deal is.
Yeah, so the Mets, you give the Mets a shot in this series.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Again, just enough pitching. Mm-hmm. Lindor is the guy that you have to really keep your eye on in this series. He's kind of like the temperature for their offense. When he gets going, so too does everybody else. And to me, in many respects, he's like, for the Mets, what Mookie Betts is for the Dodgers, that athletic player with power. He's a swing of the bat difference maker, and he can kill you with his glove. I really am enjoying watching those two great sort of middle-aged players now, as crazy as it seems right now. Seems like yesterday we were like looking at them as young stars, and now they're the stars that we thought they would be. But to me, if Lindor is having the kind of series where he's dangerous enough to drive in the run from 2 outs with 2 outs and on second base consistently to give the Mets that's what made Bernie Williams so great in postseason with the Yankees back in the day. 2 outs, runner in scoring position. I'm coming through. That's just what he did. And I'm thinking that's where Lindor comes in for the Dodgers. And if you get a little something out of Freddie Freeman offensively, I admire his courage, but he still ain't swinging the bat right. Significant foot injury. Other than that, I mean, I think both these series, I'll put it to you like this. Dodgers, Mets, definitely go 7 games. Yankees, Indians, I think if the Yankees get on a roll and steal one in Cleveland, remember it's a 2-3-2 set, much like the NBA is right now. And that's a whole difference maker for the home team because you don't have that travel day. Gets you a chance to set up. If you're like Dave Roberts, you're liking that because you're going to go back to your 5-man rotation game before you get back to LA. You may need to do that to get back to LA. So watch that play out because that's going to be a significant factor is he's got to get more length out of his starters when he goes to the bullpen pitchers to be the starter in that game. I would suspect around Game 5, look for that to come into play because Dave is comfortable with it. Down the stretch, the Dodgers had to do that, but it's postseason now, and it's a totally different animal when you don't get that length at the top of the start. It changes the whole dynamic of that game.
No doubt.
Well, Professor G, what's your preference as far as what you want to see in the World Series? You want to see Yankees and Dodgers? You want a Subway Series? What's your preference?
I'm a Yankee Dodgers guy. I'm proudly Gen X. So some of the time I used to sneak up and watch TV when I was supposed to as a child. Was World Series games between the Yankees and the Dodgers. I'm talking like the mid-'70s. So I was watching Reggie Jackson.
Yes, sir.
As it was happening.
Yes, sir.
Bob Welch, the Dodgers.
Bob Welch. I was trying to remember his name.
Yeah, Bob Welch striking out Reggie Jackson in the next year's series and then coming back in Game 6, hitting a home run off of him that blew the series over. Which was, I think, the year after he hit the 3 home runs. So I grew up, and I mean, great players on both sides. Yeah. You know, when you start thinking about the Dodgers, Davey Lopes was on that team. Bill North was on that team. Dusty Baker was playing on that team. Yep. I mean, so for me as a black kid who played baseball in inner city, Yankees Dodgers was must see for me. However, my heart was more often broken because the Yankees would win.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching them too, man. Greg Nettles, so many great Mickey
Munson before he died. I mean,
yeah. Those were the glory days, man. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I'm happy that you're on with us, I want you to tell folks a little bit more about MLBbrodotcom because you guys are so important to the culture and what you bring. Shout out to Rob for coming up with the concept because it's needed. Like urban kids, black kids have no idea of how exciting and how you can fall in love with the game of baseball. Like it's nothing like it. You mentioned we're talking decades ago, and you and I can still reminisce. About
man.
Dave Winfield and Ricky Henderson, and Albert Bell, all the great guys that we saw in the past.
I mean, think about the Mets in '86. Yeah. Think about them for a second. Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden. You really didn't need to go any farther than that.
Yeah.
As the sign used to be on Shea Stadium when you go up there to watch it, baseball like it ought to be. And it was in that dump that Shea Stadium was.
Yeah.
And make no mistake about it, it was a real dump.
It was.
It's like it was a landfill for professional sports at the end.
Yeah, I remember the Jets playing football at Shea Stadium. Richard Todd and Freeman McNeil and those guys. Yeah. Richard Castor, yeah. Great games over there at Shea. Jenny?
So you watch a lot of baseball. You write about it. So, of course, you watch a lot of baseball. How much of it do you take as streak, the bats getting hot versus the 7-game series and the actual best team wins?
I'm going to tell you something. The best teams often does not win. And I'll say that having covered Glavine, Madison, Smoltz in Atlanta when I worked there. There were times where the Braves was clearly the better team, but they stopped hitting. That is such a thing that you got to watch. What team is hitting and what team has a hot pitcher? If you get one hot pitcher, that pitcher can win you 2 games in a series. And if your team competes together the other 2, you'll win that series. As for me, I like teams when they're going in and they're playing well and they're hot, riding the momentum, the wave and stuff like that. That's an interesting projection, but then that happens in all the sports. You notice how teams peaking at the right time. Some teams, last thing you want to do is peak around the All-Star break.
Yeah.
I saw that happen in Baltimore here this year. They peaked around the All-Star break. They had a lot of injuries and they faded at the end. I think it's interesting to note that all 4 of the teams that are in this playoff were playing above 500 baseball for the last 6 weeks of the season. And the run that the Mets and the Indians and the Tigers, who aren't here right now, but the runs that they made after August was what set them up for what we're watching right now. And the Dodgers got injured. Remember, they were without Mookie Betts for 6 weeks.
Yep.
So I think for me right now, despite the fact he broke his hand, his body is fresher now for him to be more solid. He didn't have to play a full 162. He had 25, 30 off to rest the body. It was tough for the Dodgers, but they got him back, and they seem to have Jack Flaherty, a hot pitcher now. And it's killing me as an Oriole fan because he didn't do it for us in October last year. But I knew Jack had something. Jack had something left. I'm happy for the guy that he's doing well because he was money in game one. But Jenny, to me, if you hot at this time of year, the hottest team normally is going to win. And it's scary to note right now that there isn't one team that stands out because they've all been on a mission to get here. And I think that's why we're getting these great games.
Yeah.
Love it. The competition. That's why we love the game, the competition.
That's it. You want close games. And,
Exactly.
you don't want really any games that are set on the line that's higher than -3, right? You hoping that every game is as close to last second, walk-off home run, touchdown at the end of the game. That's what we're built for. And baseball traditionally has been decided before you get to the ninth inning. That was almost like, we expected that to happen already, so it's over. But now you're getting so many games in prime time. And if you'll allow me a minute on the soapbox to your point about getting kids back into baseball from urban areas, we got to have more black superstars. And that has to be a legitimate commitment by Major League Baseball because they're losing a lot of paying ticket families because they don't have players that look like them. And I think, Jeff, you and I grew up in an era where we saw, all great players. I mean, people forget about how great Dave Parker was and Willie Stargell was and Gary Maddox.
Yeah.
I mean, Ferguson Jenkins. I mean, it was just like kind of crazy when we were growing up. We kind of took for granted. And I know that's why I gravitated towards playing Little League and high school baseball, stuff like that, because I saw guys that looked like me that were doing this thing. Our kids don't have anybody to look at. And one of the things that we got to deal with is convince the few Black American players in the game to reach out to those kids, to kind of give a little bit like, LeBron or, there's got to be a better job of them personally marketing themselves so that they can get the marketing dollars to have the impact on the kids. Because we know one thing, kids like superstars and they like shoes. And what the players have to do in return is make it a more legitimate effort to connect with the young Black fans. I've done I guess we would call it parenthetical research, man on the street at the ballpark, at HBCU events in DC and Baltimore, and the consensus is clear. If there are more Black American players at Major League Baseball games, more Black American fans will come. They speak it, they know it, they say it, and I know a guy who is Black, who's in public affairs for the Orioles, that the challenge, even with outreaches in the community, is because you don't have any Black faces in the batter's box on the pitching round, at least not enough of them in enough towns. And we're trying to do something about that. We're trying to reach out in ways and cover it creatively, meet the younger audience where they are on a digital platform. Short form stuff. We have a podcast, and then you got geezers like me who have created a vault of baseball history through Back in the Day, and Rob does a Bro You Need to Know, and those are basically history pieces about Black American baseball players when we were doing the damn thing, quite frankly. Yeah. And we have a number of players who can. There are a lot of guys in college and lower stages of the minor leagues that should be coming up. But I'm so proud to see Kamar Rocker make it back. Right. And when you see what happened to him after they thought his arm was blown out, he's come back to rebuild himself, and he's young. I think he's a charismatic type of player with the way he's gonna, if he projects out to be what he does, excite an audience. He's gonna move the crowd, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to those kind of players. And keep your eye on that kid who I guess is going to be Sacramento, playing for the Sacramento A's next year, Lawrence Butler. There's There's several players from the Atlanta area that are big-time players. C.J. Abrams in D.C., the shortstop, can't stay out of the casino too late, but he's superstar, man. I'm telling you, at his peak, he will give you, and this is blasphemy to say, Ozzie Smith range and Cal Griffin power.
Wow.
Okay? I'm serious. If he reaches his peak, okay, that's
some big shoes,
bro.
Some big shoes.
But I'll tell you what, Lawrence Butler with the A's and Michael Harris for the Braves, the kind of players that we trying to focus on to bring them out, to bring players into the game, because something seems to be going on in that Atlanta area, because Harris and Butler and C.J. Abrams are all from there. That's like it used to be down your way.
Yeah.
When you look up in the NFL and you see everybody from the county, right?
Yep.
It was crazy like that. And Atlanta seems to have the hub, and with the All-Star game being there next summer, Chocolate City, one of their superstars, chocolate players, one of the all-time greats is there. It should be an opportunity for us to, celebrate the Black heritage in baseball. We did it in Birmingham, which was just an incredible moment in my life, just to be there in that moment. But Atlanta could be much bigger and better because of the nature of the event.
No doubt.
I think Major League Baseball could do more. I know we have Jackie Robinson Day. We've got the Andre Dawson Classic. I think we need to see more of them in the community, because the NFL and the NBA, they're flashy. They're flashy. There's the money, it's the cool factor and all of that. I feel like we just need to try to do more, because now the players are coming from these different countries, and where have our Black players gone?
A lot of people would say that the cost of sort of grooming your baseball player is astronomical, and quite frankly, you have to be from well-off, way upper class, middle family. What's happened in baseball is it's like the AAU or the travel team basketball circuit. If you're not overwhelmingly talented for somebody to give you a spot on that team and look out for you, you can't play on that team. And that's the problem. Baseball has priced itself out of inner cities. And remember, we were getting players like Darryl Strawberry, who was from Crenshaw. Okay? Yep. Let's be clear about that. He went to Crenshaw High. Doc Gooden came out of where in Florida? I forgot. But we were getting kids, not necessarily off the street, but certainly from around the way, who had an edge about them and were working hard to fight to make a name for themselves. And right now, quite frankly, if you're a Black American kid, you pretty much need to be from a place of privilege to play this game beyond high school. And when I say beyond high school, I'm talking about the summer travel teams where all the scouts are looking for people they may draft out of high school, and in other places where they're going to give you some money to go to college. And I think it's interesting to note that we don't get a whole lot of major league participation from a scouting standpoint at the RBI World Series. That's supposed to be the signature program that is developing talent or what have you. And I can think of only really one major Division I coach that recruits that event, and he's the coach at Georgetown here in D.C., and consequently, he has built a pretty solid program with a lot of African-American players. Georgetown, that blended school, but then on the other side, Bill Thompson's alma mater, Howard University, had to drop the program. So it is such an expensive game to play these days. Yeah. And if you can't pay for it, they won't let you play in it.
Well, I mean, you can't. Since you're in baseball and you know these people, maybe you could put a bug in their ear that they can come back and bring back to the community and set up some of these camps so that they don't have to be always traveling.
Here's an idea that anybody in any community can do, and we did it here. They've got that, not the RBI, but they've got this format that's like it's called pitch, hit, and run. if you're old enough to remember the days of punt, pass, and kick with the NFL, it's baseball's answer to punt, pass, and kick. So kids have to be successful in all three disciplines, throwing the ball accurately, getting around the bases fast, and, throwing the ball with accuracy. Okay. That is a great place. It's cheap for individual communities to do. If you hook up with Major League Baseball, it's a tournament format, which gives the kids a chance to play at the hometown stadium in the finals of their event or what have you. So I would encourage anybody who's watching, if you want to do something to introduce the game to kids without coming out your pocket too much money, to introduce them to the game through pitch, hit, and run. All the elements of baseball, everybody can compete on various levels. And then you may identify some people who have a skill that can play. But I think, and I'm glad you brought up, the Andre Dawson Classic, because we got to give shouts out to FAMU, because I can make a compelling argument, and I've written and said this, that baseball's greatest outfield may have come from FAMU.
Wow.
I mean, you think about it.
There's something about that Florida talent here.
You had Dawson, you had Vince Coleman, and you had Marquise Grissom.
Wow.
I mean,
legends, all from FAMU.
All of them.
Wow.
Tim Raines signed to play at FAMU, but the Expos gave him too much money, so he went on to them. That was a tremendous legacy of baseball in Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And again, and another reason that we don't have it is we need to figure out a way to get more HBCUs playing baseball again. I think what happened was you started equally funding through Title IX. You knew there were going to be some cutbacks. And while softball has grown, baseball at HBCUs is pretty much only around in certain places. It's big in the SWAC, but it's not really that big anymore like it was in the MEAC. So we got to figure out how, and my baseball initiative would be for baseball to adopt a couple of HBCUs in the community that they play in, give them an opportunity to develop talent. Develop some talent, much like make the kind of investment in HBCUs, which have already an infrastructure like you do in the Dominican Republic. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you for saying.
That's the game to me, Jenny. I mean, when you
come back to give back. Because I see soccer, they're introducing these fields. Christian Pulisic, I think that's how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He created a camp down here in Miami. You've got Messi doing stuff with the community. I mean, I don't see baseball. I mean, I see, the Heat have their camps. Basketball and football camps are dominant, but bring to your point, something for baseball. If you, what's that movie, Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. So let's try to bring it to the communities, and I think the kids will want to do it when they see you out there and you're taking an interest in them.
Right.
You're training them and showing them the way. Baseball can be fun too.
You're right. And it's where money is. And then there's stuff away from the field that you can get into when you start talking about professional opportunities for jobs for kids. Analytics is a big thing. If you know how to read the spreadsheet and appropriately analyze a baseball player using numbers and your eyesight, that's how scouts are born. That's how agents are made. That's how vice presidents and general managers are created. And I think the hub of, because we've seen all the Harvard guys, the Ivy League guys, the Theo Epsteins, my boy Mike Elias here, this new breed doing the Moneyball thing. I would put up anybody from Howard or Morehouse or Morgan or FAM that could use the same level of digital analysis, right? And numbers and do those jobs. Baseball is not doing enough to present opportunities. And I bring that up as a proud card-carrying member of the Morgan State Alumni Association. And one of the biggest moments to me was when Calvin Hill, Grant Hill's dad, was a vice president for the Orioles. The Orioles offices were up near Morgan at that time. And he came down and spoke to us about jobs away from the field. And it changed the whole direction of me looking at a prospective career opportunity like I was considering at that time. And at that point, I wanted to cover the team. So we've had people do that in the past that were genuine. I'm not saying that the people who are doing it now aren't genuine, but there seems to be a certain commitment.
Yeah, and there's a disconnect.
There's a commitment to themselves instead of the advancement. Of what we need to, improve opportunities for African Americans, not only on the field but in the front office too. And I'll use Kenny Williams as the perfect example, the former White Sox general manager, right? Who remember before they won the World Series, they were still in that 75-year drought, trying to prove themselves, right? Kenny Williams is outside the game now.
Yeah.
That team that he had built, the organization that had won a World Series, guess what? They set the record for the worst season ever this year. They lost 121 games. Now, I don't read stats the way the great analysts do. Right. But to me, when you go from winning the World Series to the worst record ever. And it's funny. Bob Watson built the Joe Torre Yankees, is not revered nowhere near as much as Brian Cashman. And all Brian Cashman did was took what Reggie Jackson and Bob Watson built and spent George's money.
He rode with it.
He did.
And I'm telling you, man, Mark, we can talk about this all day, bro. Because I'm from the culture of a lot of the great baseball talent that we should be seeing are dunking in the NBA and they're scoring touchdowns in the NFL. And we need to bring them back to the diamond where they will have longer careers, be healthier players, and we would have more black.
And your money's guaranteed.
Yeah, what Charles Barkley say? Guaranteed.
Okay.
But, I've talked to some of the athletes' dad as well, and they said from maybe the difference between baseball and some of the other sports is that from the time they're knee high to a duck, they're putting a basketball in their hand. They're putting a football in their hands. I talked to Antonio Brown. I talked to his dad, and he said, you put the football in their hands and don't let them pick up any other ball. Just keep putting the football or the basketball. You just keep putting it in their hands. And that's how you nurture them into the game and you bring them around. But you could play it in your backyard. I mean, back in the day when we were growing up, you could play baseball out in your backyard.
Well, at least you could play catch.
Get a few, get a few of the neighborhood kids to come around. And, you would play with get your baseball and you play with a stick that you found out in the yard. But
and when you get 3 outs, you drop your glove on the field and the person from the other team comes out and uses your glove at your position.
Yeah.
But it's a different world.
It's a different world.
It's a different world. And I guess one of the things I learned by being a professor now is that you do have to meet the younger generation where they are without crossing over to the dark side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you do have to meet them with compassion, understanding, and a game plan. They want keys to the test. So I think you have enough people who have the ear of the folks with Major League Baseball. And I truly fear that if we don't really enact this type of African-American growth and development in the game before Rob Manfred retires, I don't think that it'll ever happen. I think you can look at the tone of the presidential race, and that would tell you the demographics or the tone of Major League Baseball front offices and team owners and stuff. So, if the people who have the ear of the power brokers don't make it happen in the next 3 or 4 years, I could see a Major League Baseball in 20 years without any Black American players. And I would be sick about that and would probably lose my interest, but it wouldn't shock me at all.
It wouldn't shock me either. Mark Gray, the great one from MLBbrodotcom. Thank you for joining us so much. Thank you so much, man.
Hey, let's do it again before the end of the playoffs.
A wealth of knowledge, my friend. If we get Yankees and Dodgers, you're coming back, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get Yankees.
Hey, look, even if my teams don't get there, I'm going to be watching the series and doing something. And if you get a chance, check out the MLB Bro mixtape. We're giving you baseball analysis, highlights, and hip hop. That's on Spotify and wherever you get your other podcasts. So check it out.
All right, my man. Mark, great. Thank you very much for joining us, Mark. We'll catch up with you later.
Talk to y'all soon. Take care, family.
Woo-woo. Mark Gray, everybody, man. He's a great friend, man. MLBbrodotcom. Make sure you go check it out. A wealth of knowledge, Jenny. We could have done a whole 2 hours with him because there's so much that I had to say regarding the fact that we have no black people playing baseball.
We need to do a special.